Hello, friends. It's Cindy Silva. I'm here with Kathleen Horvath, and we're on an episode of the Metaphysical Wisdom podcast. I'm really excited to have Kathleen share with us her work, which is phenomenal. The deeper I get into it, the more excited it is. And I like this workshop that you're coming up with. You're putting out introduction to the ninth wave, which is something I'd love to have you share with us. And let me just say that Kathleen is an expert and a master at 5 elements Feng Shui and business Feng Shui, working with people to help them understand their elements and how it plays out in their life and business. And if you want to share any more about your work and so forth before we go into the ninth wave description, please feel free.
Okay. Well, hello, Cindy, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast today. And hello to all of your community. I am so grateful that I am here today because I really think that we all have this incredible opportunity to tap into a very seismic shift that is happening. So I am a business Feng Shui master. So when I'm looking at anyone's particular project, it really is this whole ecosystem that I'm looking at, which is person, space, time, and universe. So what I mean by that, the person is the astrology, because everything in classical Feng Shui, which I am classically trained, I have a very wide spectrum of training in Feng Shui, but what I feel gets the best results is classical Feng Shui. So it is a little bit more personalized. So always looking at a person's birth chart of where they're at right now, where they would like to go, and where their chart is indicating where they could go. And all of this, believe it or not, is about a choice, because everyone can look at a chart and go, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world for you, or look at the opportunities if you are willing to be a little bit courageous to walk into certain aspects of your life. And my work, I really want people to really understand their chart, so they're not so dependent on always getting a reading, because there's so many things that you can learn on your own. But that really is the first step. Who are you? What you're capable of doing? And then we use Feng Shui. Feng Shui, there's, I believe, a lot of misconceptions out there about Feng Shui, about, this infamous money corner and relationship corner and all of that. And if that was all true, we would all be rich and we'd all have perfect relationships. We'd all be super healthy. Well, life is a bit messy, right? So what I help my clients do is adjust their space to help them be more vibrant. Now, that's a very different way of looking at Feng Shui. Feng Shui is used to help you achieve your goals. So if you are, if life is going really well for you, you know that your Feng Shui is working really well. If things are a little off kilter, sure shooting, it's showing up in your chart and it's living out in your space. That's why I know that's a very different way of looking at it. So when I work a lot with my clients on the annual energies, we're currently in the year of the water rabbit. And so I encourage people to be in the more vibrant areas of their floor plans to the best of their ability. It might be a little inconvenient. Like, for example, the South sector is very, very important to this year, as well as going into period 9. We'll talk about that in just a second. And so even though my main office is not located in the South, I try to sit in the South as much as possible. For example, for this interview, I'm sitting in the South sector of my space so that I can tap into that more vibrant energy. I can be more present. I can be more vibrant. If I conversely go where the energy is more lower, then my energy is going to drop as well. So for people who need to get that lift up, it's best to sit in vibrant energy. For those already on a high wave, stay on that wave and don't mess with your Feng Shui by being in some of the negative areas. So Step one, what's in your chart? Step two, how can you lift yourself up to have your chart really beautifully unfold the best way it can?
So you're saying the South is for everyone this year?
The South sector in 2023 is super vibrant. And the reason why it's super vibrant is we have a system called Flying Star, and the annual Flying Star has a number 8. Without getting too technical, 8 means current cash flow. And it is the last year that we can use the lucky 8 number. What we are going to be transitioning to is period 9. So yes, the South sector, I want everyone right now, pull out their phone, stand in the middle or as much middle as you can into the center of a room or your overall floor plan and figure out where the South is at. Does it have a bathroom? Does it have is it a beautiful living space that you're using a lot? Is it a bedroom? Is it the garage? Is it missing? If it is missing, that is your first indication about a couple of things. One, you will not be seen. The South always, long-term, short-term, the South is where the element of fire is located. And period 9 is all about fire industries, some of the good things that are going to happen with fire and some of the more challenging things that are going to have with fire. But if you want to be visible, you must be using your South sector, as well as I want you to also look outside of your own space, where originally Feng Shui is generated from, is from the external landform. And what I'm talking about is your yard. Further out, if you have some hills or mountains, the water energy, it's the water and the earth energies that generate the energy. There's a famous song back in the, what was it? Cindy, help me out. Was it the 70s, when the earth moves under my feet? That's the energy, yeah. Right? So really, this is really truly the energy that we're trying to tap into, harness it, and bring it to our front door. That's why in Feng Shui, your front door is very important. But going back to the period 9, if you have that sector that is missing or weakened means there's a bathroom there, there's maybe that's where you keep your trash cans, things that are not vibrant. So, anything with a drain or a storage and it's all clogged up with, stuff, the energy is not able to even be nourished within yourself.
Okay, so can I ask? So sure. You're saying the South is, well, it's the year 2023, so it's potent, but also for as we move into this 9th?
20 years. 20
years, the South is going to be the potent.
Correct. So 20, let's say 21 and a half years at the time of this recording. So we need to make sure that your South is visible. And, here's another thing. This is why we go back to your astrology chart. Do you have a horse, the animal of the horse, located in your astrology chart? So if you do, depending on where it shows up, year, month, day, hour, or if it's in a current cycle that might be influencing you right now, if you have a horse in your chart, then that's saying the South is very important for you. So this class that I'm teaching on Tuesday, it is building from your astrology chart onto a compass dial. It's called a 24 mountain compass dial, which has all the animals of the zodiac. And what we're trying to figure out is what are your strengths in your astrology chart, and then how can we superimpose that over your current floor plan, and it will tell you right away how compliant you are for period 9. So You may be like not prepared at all for period 9. Okay, that's good awareness, because awareness is the first step, right?
Yeah.
But once you create this dial that we're going to be doing hands-on. This is a very cost-effective class for you to get this information quickly. And then what you do is every time you're going to be looking for a new space to rent, to lease, even if you're going to be doing renovations, it's very easy on a piece of paper coming from your architect or designer and saying, hey, let's bump this wall out. Well, why don't we put that dial on and see if it changes anything to enhance your chart? If it's diminishing from your chart, your answer would be, ooh, what else can we do here? Because you don't want your astrology missing from your floor plan. What I mean by that, Cindy, is we have in Feng Shui something that's called 4-point gold, which means we like to see the shapes of our spaces that we occupy being square, which means you have everything. That means you have a full deck. You're playing with a full deck. But let's say you have the south missing. The south is already going to tell me, if you have it missing, weakened, compromised, like I was talking about before, the south is fire. South is about the happiness. So if you're a little bit depressed, what's happening in your south? Is it missing? Do you have joy? Do you have passion about what you are trying to do in life? And if you don't, it's most likely because something is impacting your south sector inside or out. Now, for example, I have a horse in my chart and it's located in my month of birth. So that means it is affecting my career. So any space I look at, if the south is compromised or missing, not only is it affecting my happiness, it is affecting my career. So, and it's also affecting visibility and things like that. That's why it's so important to understand where your animals are located on a compass dial, and then superimposing it on your floor plan. So let's say you have another animal, random animal. I'm going to just throw out there, you have a tiger. So the tiger is located in the northeast sector along with another animal. But let's say you have a tiger in your chart and that is your hour of birth. And it's missing from your floor plan, and or it's clogged up. It might have, you're using it as a storage area. You are it's maybe a garage and it's a little bit messy or something like that. So it's compromised, weakened, or it's only partly there. Well, that tiger in my hour of birth relates to my legacy, my goals. It's the one that really is affecting your capacity to achieve your goals. It is also affecting your investments. So the money that you bring in from wherever source it may be coming in, are you able to even manage it? Well, if you have a tiger and your northeast is missing, you're probably going to have some money problems. So as you can see, there's a lot of implications, and we could go on and on and on, but going back to period 9, what we're also going to be understanding is, where are your helpful people? That your chart will say there are certain animals that are going to be helpful for you. So if you're in an area, if you're going through a time where things could be challenging, then go sit in that area. But again, if it's missing, then we've got to find, so we're trying to find every single way that we can tap into our charts so that we can lift our feng shui. Now,
can I just clarify something? So what you're saying is that based on our date and time of birth, there's an internal, let's just call it a geometry.
Yeah.
And then what we're trying to do is get our external environment to harmonize with that, and get all of that to harmonize with the greater cycles of universal cosmic chi.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Harmonize.
I believe Feng Shui and your astrology and all, it's an inner game. When you're able to really live your chart to the fullest, and I believe everyone has a chart that you might have challenges, but if you keep continuing to reinforce those patterns of challenges versus going, okay, I need to step back a little bit. What are some of the jewels? What are some of my hidden jewels that I can tap into and start working on those? Then that will start lifting your own energy, along with being strategic.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I didn't mention when we were talking about my intro is I also very, very much look into favorable timing. I have a piece of software called the TimeBlazr, which is going to be triggering good again, personalized to you so that you can take the right action at the right time. And then using Universal Gateway, which is the very spiritual side, it really is sort of that mother lode of all of the models that I do of person, space, time, and universe is the Universal Gateway. So it really is a comprehensive system. With that said, everyone needs to still take action. It's not like, oh, you put all this in place and just go, okay, everything is now going to just come to me. Well, it really is a very action-based. I mean, you will get, yes, some results, but how long lasting your actions are going to dictate that, right?
And
So
what you're saying is that it's not a static thing. It's a dynamic, always changing and moving. And so we have to be in touch with the rhythms of the changes and adapt. It feels like as you're speaking, that how we go or have this pattern of checking in with a doctor, getting an annual exam. Feels like this is the new kind of medicine that's coming in, is getting an annual checkup with our inner geometry and our environment. And because a lot of what isn't looked at in traditional medical models is the environment that we're living in, right? So this is, and in biology, they're learning that the health of the cell is really determined by the environment that it's in. And that's the epigenetics. So we're really talking about epigenetics here.
absolutely, absolutely. Let me see if I could also make like another little analogy, right? So let's just say, let's go again with, what the medical doctors are telling you. You have a certain issue. Okay, we have a certain issue. Well, in Feng Shui, we have every year, but you can also look at this on so many different levels, depends on how deep you want to go into your long term. But for all of your listeners out there that may be relating to a health challenge, what I would absolutely recommend, remember I said South is very good to be in. In 2023, we have what's called the illness star, and it's located in the East sector. So if you are already dealing with any type of health issue, don't make it worse by being in the East sector. If you sleep in the East sector or you work in the East sector, again, this is going to be one of the more draining energies. And if you're totally healthy, maybe your health constitution can handle it, but it's like, why would you want to see if I'm strong enough to sit in a sickness area when I know I have several other PowerPoints that's just going to lift me up? But if you do know that you have a compromised immune system, or you might be dealing with something and that you want to really help boost your energy, my suggestion is stay out of the east sector. One of the adjustments that you can do is put metal in the east, lots of metal. Like I've got 100 pounds of metal in my east. And that's actually where my office was located in 2022, because it was fabulous in 22. But you know what? These energies shift. And that's the thing. Basically, this is called chasing the dragon. Chasing the dragon is following where the best energy is at and avoiding the complications of the year. So really what I'm trying to help people do is understand a little bit of long-term, which I don't really teach at my annual events that I have in, I do one late in the year and then early of the next year. And this one is ginormous because we are going through this period shift. So if I could talk a little bit about that, I'd like to tell you a little bit about this big shift that we're going through. Are we ready to talk about that? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. I just want to clarify one thing that's in my mind. First, like just summarizing what you said is that there's superior chi and inferior chi, and we're really trying to maximize our own chi by being in the spaces where the chi is superior and avoiding the inferior. Yeah.
Yeah, and really, you're at a crossroads. Every person's at a crossroads to make that choice. I'm right here wherever my needle is, and let's just say I am someone who is, and it doesn't really matter. I'm someone who really wants to make a big splash. I want to be very visible. Okay. I'm that person, but I'm also maybe a person that has some health challenges and things like that. So what am I going to do? I have a choice. I can say, I'm going to go, my office is already set up in the east. Can't be that bad, right? We've got another challenging energy in the northwest. So who cares? I'm going to use that door because it's convenient. I have heard more people tell me, well, it's not convenient for me to move my office, or it's not convenient for me to move into a different room. Well, that's all fine and well, but then you also need to know, it's like once that bell has been rung and you know that these areas for a very short time, for a year, are going to be challenging. So, no renovations in those areas. And so it's like, why, I'm at that point where am I going to spit in the wind and go, I'm just not gonna align with those good energies, or am I going to try to soar closer to my goal? When you go towards the more positive, it's like, I don't know. Have you ever, when we were kids, I remember, you're splitting up into two teams, right? And there's a team leader on each side, and there's a group of people on the other side, kids, whether it be a business meeting or whatever, but you got to break up in teams. And the team leader starts to pick, what do they pick? Do they pick the strongest people to help align with them, or do they choose the weakest link? And they don't have a winning strategy then, right? Because if you're working with like the weakened part of everything, it's not going to help you build. So it really is a good way of looking at it, is everyone has that choice. And if you're using the excuse that it's just not convenient, then that's when, you're playing with fire, if you will, and you might get burnt. So there you go.
All right. I know everyone wants to get to the ninth wave piece, but one more question.
Yes.
So when we're looking at the floor plan of our overall space, and we have these sectors of south and so forth, can we also look at each individual room because
Yes.
like the microcosm and the macrocosm, we look at our individual room, like our bedroom has an east, a south, a northeast, and apply the same principles there.
Yes. Yes, you can. Because when you think about it, Cindy, let's say you want to go and, excuse me, go back to a brick and mortar kind of situation, and you're renting a room in a larger, suite, but you do not have control over the entire building. There might be 100 different businesses within that building, and then there's an owner of that building that's renting you that space. So what you do is you then take the macro and bring it down to the micro, and then put the compass over that particular room, and then do your setups that way. And that will absolutely help you. Because even when you think about it, doing the macro is actually quite important as well. So we've got this building, and let's say, and my nose is going to be the south, just for our demonstration purposes. And we decide that this office right over here, which I am indicating, is the east. So it might have great feng shui, and you may say, you know what, this is a long-term rental for me, and I decided that I'm going to do it. Everything else matches, but it's in the east for 2023. It's 1 year. I would never, unless I was only going to use that space for 1 year, never buy, lease with the annual dial, because it only lasts a year. There's a different system of looking at how to find that. But in answer to your question, yes, you can micromanage down that compass dial over one room, and the same rules apply. Stay out of the east if you can, and the northwest of that room for the year if you can. So I actually do that in my own space, because I have a home-based office, which many people have been doing in these last 3 years, especially if you are self-employed. So that's exactly what I do. I am choosing to be more in the actual south versus where my office is located, kind of long term. But I spend as much time here, and sometimes I'll be here for the whole month, because these energies change quite often, right? So, but the South is very much connected to me, and therefore I want to boost my own energy and visibility by spending time in the South, and that's how you do it. It's really like, you would think that could be such an empowering thing for you to just like get in the areas where your astrology shows up on your floor plan, and really like focus on that to go, how can I improve those areas, because they will improve those areas of my life.
Yeah, that's dialing it in. Yeah, I can see how you could print out, like if you were in a small space in a large building, you could print out the building and apply the feng shui to the print. The parts you can't control, you can sort of do like in a biogeometry kind of way. With the system I learned, biogeometry, you can do that. But anyway, I want to have you talk to us about ninth wave. First of all, please explain where it comes from. I think it's Chinese metaphysics, but you can tell me, and tell us where it comes from, what it is, and what else you want us to know about it.
Okay, so first of all, period. It's an 180-year cycle, and within the cycle, there are 9 blocks of 20 years within each cycle. We are currently in period 8, so a lot of people even in sort of pop culture, you know, like the number 8, lucky 8, it's 888, and getting a number, you know, a license plate number, or a phone number, or anything that, you know, people got married on 888. So because that was the most vibrant number. Well, that is leaving at the end of 2023, and 8 is an earth energy. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, we are now going to be entering and already able to tap into period 9 by using the energy of this year. I'll get to that in just a second, but it is going into fire. So here is, I hope, the biggest takeaway that I want your listeners to hear me. This is the last year before we can go into period 9 without bringing in or dragging along with us a bunch of garbage, your karmic garbage from your entire life, if you will. So this is the proverbial, the phoenix rising from the ash being period 8, it's earth energy. And we don't want if the phoenix is going to rise, we have to release the earth. And what the release means is, and everyone in the world is experiencing some sort of change. Or you know somebody that has experienced change. And if you haven't experienced dramatic change in these last 3 years, you're either living under a rock, or you are so evolved, because I do believe that there are beings on this earth that are so evolved that it doesn't, nothing really affects them anymore, because they're so enlightened. But for the mortals that are living on the face of this earth, we have experienced quite a bit of loss. That's all period 9, period 8, just releasing the whole thing about COVID. Is as brutal as this sounds, it's a clearinghouse. The whole thing about the collapse of banks, the middle class, just literally just bottoming out. You know, all of the devastation with climate and war, that is all like releasing people mostly, and systems that no longer work. The old way is starting to like dissipate, if you will. So a lot of people are saying, like, but look at all of the nastiness is happening, and we're heading into, you know, just devastation. Well, let's put on the thinking cap. Maybe this is rising and it's spinning out and going, is it still going to stick? Is it still going to stick? But most likely it's going to start peeling off, shedding off. And so here's what our inner work is. I advise every single person to do a personal inventory, write down the things that are not going well in your life, write down the things that you, and where's your responsibility in it, right? It's not like, he did that, or I'm this way because of it. What is your responsibility in it? When you finally understand your responsibility in everything that's happening in your life, you're part of it. I'm not saying that the consequences of what happened in your life are maybe out of your control, because let's face it, as far as I know, I've never had COVID, but it has certainly affected me dramatically. I am now, my business is very much an online business versus, you know, seeing clients and things like that. So when you're willing to go, okay, that, you know, some external forces aren't mine, but do something. But when it is something that it's involved, whether it be relationship, a health issue, or whatever, like, go back into that timeline, and where was it where was that moment that you gave up your power that then created the situation that you're in? Release that. That is the work that we have to do now. And this is why this year is so important, because it's the last year, period 8, Earth, so that the phoenix can ascend and rise. So if you go into period 8, 9, being more free of the baggage that, so this might mean systems that you used to, or ways of being in which you always have followed. Maybe a new order is there, and be open to this is a great time for exploration too, right? So self-care is super important, because change, as everyone knows, shift happens, and with shift there's a lot of stuff that will come up. And so you have to be very, very, very compassionate with yourself and working on your self-love. And so there's so much out there. I mean, personally, what I do every single day, I wake up and I clear my energy. I call in my guides. I do the system universal gateway, where I put my back to a certain direction and I do a meditation of clearing. I do some sort of movement, qigong mostly. That I love qigong. Works on the same system of the 5 elements. Yoga or some sort of strength training, swimming, something like that. And I journal. I and then I do some sort of creative expression. So I do like urban sketchbooking kind of art that it's not so time consuming that I can't then get on to the rest of my day. And that might be sprinkled throughout the whole day. It's not that I just get up and do that, because really, if you can start thinking how much time you put into work, and if you can put a good amount, maybe it's not equal, but it could be equal to the work that you're doing of the self-care that you're giving back to yourself. This is bringing yin and yang back to your system. I think people are so, and this is what we have to watch out for in period 9, is burnout. Fire needs what? It needs fuel. It needs wood. So these are, again, a couple of elements that you need to understand in your own chart. Do you have enough fire? Do you have enough resource? Do you have enough help? Do you have enough helpful people? Well, if it isn't in your chart, somehow we have to manufacture it by self-care, asking for help, and finding those areas within your floor plan that are going to bring that about. So it really,
that this and leaving period 8, entering period 9, we're moving from earth into fire. And so in the 5 element system, there isn't an air element, but I understand the air element would be included in the fire element.
Actually, in classical feng shui, yes, we do address wind, but we look at it as a wood element.
Wood. Okay.
So and you know, truthfully, we need a little bit of wind, right, to fuel that fire, because if you just put a bunch of logs and put a match to it, unless you kind of wave it along and, you know, put in some kindling and all of that. So so we look at wind as wood. So it's still the 5 elements, but instead of saying wind, we say wood. And so that here's the big thing that I want people to be aware of, is your self-care in period 9. And that's why getting these habits, you know what, every day I don't get a chance to meditate for an hour. Maybe I have 5 minutes today. etc. So it's not like, but tending to your own garden will help you cultivate, just crops and harvest beyond what you are even doing for yourself. But you always have to take care of yourself first so that you can serve others. So this is, yes, a very important part of period 9 is taking care of yourself so you don't burn out. For those of you who have a lot of fire in your chart, my chart is actually quite what's called hot. I have so much fire in my chart. Great for period 9, but I also need to make sure that I fuel myself, or I will burn out in period 9 and collapse. So
these self-care practices in the South, right? You want to do your self-care in the South.
You can, but I'm not as restrictive as that. For example, like where I sit and do a meditation, I can sit right here because I am in the South with a certain system that I use called Universal Gateway, Chimin Dunja in Chinese. But what I would say is, spending a good amount of time in the South is going to help boost you up. But there's other power points as well. The North is fantastic in 2023. The Southeast, especially that Dragon area, is very positive in 2023. So like, what do you need? You go where those specific energies are, and it can definitely help you. So in 2023, again, going into the flying star, I'm going a little bit beyond. I don't want to confuse anybody, but every year the flying stars move into a different pattern. Remember, we love the number 9 right now. The number 9 flew into the North Palace in 2023. The reason we like the north-south axis for this year is because the 8 is in the 9 palace in the south. So we are grabbing the last of that period 8 in a very favorable palace. And in the north, where the 9 is for the year, this is giving us the opportunity to say, hey, period 9, I'm ready for you. So spending time north-south axis is super great. And I could go on and on and on about that, but this is a preparatory year to get ready for period 9. And my class on Tuesday is getting that dial ready for you so you can already make strategic decisions on whether or not you're going to stay in the location that you're at, improve the location that you're at. That's the most cost-effective thing to do, is just use those PowerPoints. And I don't know. And we want to see a lot of light in the South sector. That's where the sun is, at its peak, is in the South, in this system. So make sure that it is well lit. Exterior, if you can make your garden beautiful in the South, even having some lights in, that would at least be on for a few hours in the evening. We want light to penetrate inside and outside of that area. So you can bounce around your space depending on what you want to tap into. And I go through all of that during my annual event. But here, what I'm trying to express is, let's still use the energy from the annual event, which, by the way, I'm giving everybody the annual compass dial in the class as well, and briefly go over it so they know. But now they're going to have a personalized dial that will be good for 20 plus years. Wow. And to make informed decisions. And that's really, sometimes indecision can really take us down.
Mhm.
Being in vibrant areas of your space is going to give you clarity and help you make better decisions.
Mm. That's really a lot. Thank you. I can see the potential of it. I see the similarities too when you're speaking about this 20-year period being 2024 to 2044 or about.
43, but yes, yeah.
Yeah. 20. Yeah, it's the same as Pluto entering Aquarius for 20 years. It's the exact same timing. And Pluto is leaving an earth sign, Capricorn, entering
Okay.
Aquarius, an air sign. And I wonder if you could share with us the bigger picture of this 180-year cycle. So at the end of period 9, we'll enter a cycle 1 again, or how does that
Yes,
work? And
that's correct. That's correct.
what does
So,
the sun represent?
yeah, actually, I've been on YouTube Live um, just this past week talking a lot about all these different pieces that we're talking about now, maybe a little bit more in depth on certain things. But yes, after period 9, so in 2040. Excuse me, 2084, we're going to be going into, wait, I just got my 2044, we're going into period 1, so it starts over again. So I actually went back and looked at what was some of the things that were happening during period 9, end of period 8 and period 9, so last year, and it's quite remarkable how history is repeating itself. I mean, it may not sound like big, technology, but things like antiseptic was invented, that instead of working on this dead body and going over to this dead body, and the death rate was like,
Yeah.
it was a simple little surgery, and that, well, antiseptic came into play. There were a lot of wars. The Mexican-American War, the Civil War was starting. The World War I was starting to, take form, and big shifts in global leaders. So then we go into period 1. So where we go from, and why this is such an important time, this is a time of high spirituality. This is the time of women empowerment. This is the time for new technological advancements. Like, for example, the Pony Express was happening during that time. Well, what's happening now? We're talking about living on Mars, and I am sure will happen in the next 20 years, or pretty darn close to. Our space exploration is going to be off the charts.
Yeah.
I
Also
already
the AI is really off the charts. Like
off the
there's
chart, and
a
you
man
have
that was talking about, he's like the godfather of AI. He said that what's coming is equivalent to the invention of the wheel and how it's going to
exactly.
impact civilization. So that's what a period 9
Absolutely.
is about.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, again, technology, we think this is nothing. The safety pin was invented during period 9, but like, what were they doing back in the day for diapers and all of that kind of stuff, right? It's like, so we are going to see, like, we have seen nothing compared to what is going to be happening in period 9. Obviously, the way that we're fighting wars, it's a technical war. We're going to see, like, these older leaders, like, Putin and the two factions here in the United States, without taking any sides. It's an old way of being, and somebody like, the younger leaders that you see in the news, they'll be up in the rise, but you're going to see a lot of women coming into that place as well. But then we go from fire to water, and then we're going to see we're going to because every element has its kind of essence, if you will. So water is more about darkness. It's more about maybe going underground, if you will, or underwater, like deep, like there's going to be a deepness, but water is also concealing. Fire is exposing. There's going to be a lot of people that you're going to see, and we have been seeing it because it's at the end of the cycle. We saw the fall of cryptocurrency, the fall of the banks, and all. You always see that at the end of a cycle as the new cycle takes hold. So it's not like, oh, period 9, we're going to have all women leaders. We're going to have all, everybody's going to believe in metaphysics. No, what we're going to see is a lot of fanatics on that spectrum as well. So religious fanatics, cults. There's going to be so much war that is happening. So there's going to be a big power play.
I think a lot of misinformation as well, because we already
Oh,
that with
yeah. But that's a power play, right?
Mhm.
That's a power play, is getting people to believe something that they want you to believe,
Right.
whether it's true or not. And there will be followers. Why? Because people want hope.
Yeah.
And they hear a message in whatever form of um, mental stability or not that a person's in. When they hear, I can save you, that's how things build and grow, right? So you hear it over and over and over again, then that's where you're going to start seeing unfortunately, some of these cults that have happened in the past, like the James Jones kind of, culting kind of thing that happens. We'll definitely be seeing some of that
See
as
what you
well.
mean. Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that cycle 1, which will follow cycle 9 or period 9, is water, because it's the same. In 2044, Pluto will enter Pisces, which is a water sign. It's so fascinating.
We were talking just right before we went on air today, is, when I work with a client, I always ask them, have they done any other type of energy work for the particular issue that they're calling me about? And it's good to know this information, and everyone, I believe, has a a foundation about who they are and what they're about. Choices, that's a human level, but we all come in with a certain energetic, right? And no matter what system that you're using, it still is a timing system. Things happen at a certain time. This is some of the possibilities that will come your way, but you yourself are the one that is going to make that choice. But no matter what the system is, it's still about you, or it's still about this energetic cycle that we are experiencing, and how each one of us takes that energy and either embraces it or repels it or resists it or goes with the flow. That will also indicate how things are going to play out for you too. So
Perfect. Yeah, because I
yeah.
do feel like this, with all the misinformation that's coming with the use of AI, it can be a powerful tool for good and for bad. And the bad is that you can spread misinformation. And so I feel like this period is going to be where we've been so externally referenced, and getting our identity and our value and our sense of self from what's out there. We're going to have to be able to find our truth from our own internal compass by really discerning truth inside of ourselves, because we're not going to be able to trust it on the outside. We have to be able to take the information inside and discern whether that's true for us, and then act in accordance with that. And I feel like that's what this is going to be about is being more internally referenced. And then from there, what's being created, the creative unfolding through us, can find its way into service in these times, and do our part.
Yeah. And it, it kind of goes full circles of where we started of it's an inner game. Like, be true to yourself so that when you are out in the bigger world or choosing to watch an intake, because that is one thing I believe that I stay informed, but I am not glued to media that will weaken my sensibilities, if you will, right? So I will like skim headlines. I will watch a little bit of the news, but I do not watch the news every single day. I do tap in just to like maybe I should know if a hurricane's heading our way kind of thing, but for the most part I and I also, when I am speaking with people that I know and care deeply about, and we may have very different views about certain things, to me that is an off limit conversation. And if it comes up, I remind the other person. I choose not to talk about that. My sensibilities cannot handle it. And so I think that is something that I believe people need to also take into account when they're looking at their own well-being, is what are you putting into your body? And I'm not talking about just food or it's also what are you putting into your brain? How are you nourishing that brain every single day, which nourishes every part of your body? And believe me, I am so far from perfect. Life is an experiment, and so we get to choose what formulations we want to add to the mix, right? So yeah, I believe that one of the things we do have to watch out for is AI. Personally, I actually use AI as a jump off point for and very peripherally, because I'm not that versed in it, but for just my autoresponders. So it will help me in a much quicker time. But I think what you're referring to, and there's so much that I have been seeing that people are saying, like they're writing courses and they're writing books and things like that. And I my biggest concern is also, and I'm sure many experts, including myself, is the plagiarism that can come along with it. Like, you can take a book. Let's just say we're taking a classic like Homer, something from Homer, and I put that book into AI and say, now I want it to be a more modern spin, and I want to change these 5 characters, and it can spit out an so that's the thing that I'm worried about, is people taking that information, calling it their own, and changing some of the things in there that could alter the way that we think. And so yeah, it's a very interesting time in which we live. And again, we have seen nothing yet. Nothing.
It's it's an animal that is
I know.
beyond our maturity as a species to handle. And but I did put some things in and questions into it, and specifically related to astrology and human design, and the information I got back was inaccurate. So I just want to say that it's so new that hopefully people aren't just assuming everything it says is true, because if you don't fact check it and then you go ahead and send that information out as if it's fact, then that's where it gets really kind of dicey. But I want to just check in with two more things before we end. And first, to when you're summarizing the period 9, I get the sense you're talking about spirituality, the rise in women in power, the self-care. I get the sense that period 9 is bringing in the yin energy. Would that be accurate?
It is accurate, but you also have to remember that yes, it is a much more yin energy. Is the very quick answer. In Chinese metaphysics, we have 9 numbers, and there are when you look at it on a compass, there's a north, south, east, west. Those are our cardinal signs, if you will, and that's pure energy. But there are only 2, which is the north and the south, that those numbers are, one's water and one's fire. So it is actually the combination of yin and yang. So we do, but the fire energy is more like real fire. Yang energy is more like the sun in the sky. So yes, and that is why it is the rise of the feminine. And I don't want to exclude any evolved men that are more sensitive, but sort of that hard line that it's masculine, that is on the wayside. But we do have to also watch on whether or not everyone is ready to release all of that, because we've also seen in the media where ultra conservative type religions are actually making some noise right now, if you will. So that's something certainly because when I say spirituality, that definitely is on the rise, but so is ultra religion or very conservative type ways of thinking. So either one could be on the rise. And then that's why I say it's always good to have that balance of yin and yang, because we don't want it all yin either. That would be an imbalance as well. But so we have this very exciting opportunity to, again, release things that are no longer serving, maybe some old ways, start looking at some things that maybe you haven't explored before, and make your decisions with your heart and your inner truth. So that's where I believe people will have their most benefit, is doing that inner work.
Excellent. And like you said, with leaving the period 8, letting go of all the old stories and identities that no longer serve us, and that's always prevalent in our day-to-day life. In my example or experience is that we're constantly getting messages and messengers showing us what's no longer serving us, and if we're willing to receive that instead of project onto the person or the experience and feel victimized by it, we can see we're always being guided into the flow of the greater cycles. So I certainly recognize that in my life. And as we end, I'd love to just have you share maybe one example from your own life or from an experience of working with clients of how applying Feng Shui has made itself obviously productive and valid in a situation. I mean, you must have some favorite examples of effectiveness.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one that I can tell you about that. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one. Yeah, and I really can't reveal the identity of people. That's something that, you know, when healing work with this is but I am going to say she was in the medical field. I'll just put it that way. She was in the medical field. She decided to get a space in a very high end building in downtown San Francisco. So it was it already had very good what we call predecessor energy. And because it was a successful business that outgrew the space and then went on. So that really is kind of a number one thing. What was the energy that happened before? But one of the things that I helped her with is, and this was before she even knew about me, she had just started the project. She wanted to start, she was working for another doc. She wanted to open up her own practice. And one of the things that I quickly realized that some of the things that were happening was when we tracked back when she started the project, it was not on a good day, and they had been triggering negative energy. Because when you're doing and this was a complete, you know, down to the studs remodel, because it was a medical practice from a practice that was or a business that wasn't medical, so we needed treatment rooms and all of that kind of stuff. So it is now down to the studs. But when I came in, we realized that she started the project on the wrong day, and they were triggering very negative energy. And she was literally, when she came to me, she said, this is just too much. I can't, everything that I'm doing, it just seems like there's stop orders, and I'm thinking about just forgetting it and just going back to the other doc who said I could still practice under him. So when I took over that job, one of the things that I wanted to have happen is to adjust those two areas that I talked about from an annual basis. So we looked at especially adjusting the 5 yellow, which is one of the more dangerous ones to avoid, right? So we ended up putting in a pretty big Feng Shui adjustment there. And then what I had them do is I had them on a certain day and time to do start work in that area and avoid all the other ones. Now, this is a big project. It was a big ask of a construction company. Like, if you can only imagine the things that you know definitely happen from a perspective of kind of stopping construction and then starting it on a different day and at a time. But she had a great crew, and they agreed to do this. From that point forward, we were able to get her project done ahead of schedule instead of behind, because she was behind schedule, but we got her back on schedule, and she has a thriving practice today. So I work mostly with small business entrepreneurs, but I also work with Silicon Valley Titans. So I've done some very large projects as well. But that was really one of my favorite ones to work on, because she was like ready to just throw it all out, just because she was running up against walls. And I have many other examples of that, but she's now has a thriving practice in downtown San Francisco. So
fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that. It seems like the message there was the timing.
timing is crucial. And that's really what I've been trying to say all morning with you is like, now's the time. This is not, even this class that I'm teaching, because I'm also going to be giving a huge Feng Shui activation with this, but it's happening quick. So it's not one of those, oh, can I get the replay? Yeah, you can, but you're going to miss a very big opportunity to open up period 9 with this, because timing is crucial. That goes back to that model, person, space, time, and universe. What's in your chart? How can you adjust the space? When do you adjust the space? And then using the spiritual realm to get yourself aligned to do your inner game, to just get everything activating and vibrate up.
Vibrate up. I love that. Wonderful. Thank you. This has been a high energy conversation. You're such an amazing resource. I'm very excited to have my personal session with you coming up that I'm really looking forward to.
Likewise.
Thank you for taking the time. And I know how busy you are and how in demand you are, especially at this time. And I'm so glad that you're being called on right now to bring your wisdom forward. And I do see that this is the new medicine in the future, that things like this will
actually the old medicine, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I know.
At least it's getting maybe there is something to that I should be paying attention to, but yes.
Yeah, good point. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Cindy, and hope to see some of you on Tuesday for the class.
Yes, and I'll put the link into the description so you can join Kathleen for that vibrating up and so much more. I've been looking at everything you're offering, and it just looks like you're giving everything, your whole life's work is there. So
yeah, it is. But you know what? When you give from your heart, you resonate and bring in wonderful people like you, because this is my second interview with you, and it's always such a delight to I just feel like you and I are just having a conversation, and I know that we're talking to more than just you and I, but my heart just connects with this work. It found me. I didn't find it. It found me, and I know how powerful it is, but more important, how empowering it can be if you allow the work to unfold. So.
Well, there's certainly a lineage here that we're both connected to, and there's a deep root that's feeding us and nourishing us, and out from this conversation, other people are nourished as well, and through our work. So it's wonderful to be on the path with you all.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cindy.
My pleasure.
See you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.